Good day, everyone. This course is LACSEB 112, that's Biology and Society. The course, or the main objective of the course, is to be able to see or to learn how biology is related to the society. The benefits, the relevance of biology to the society, its importance to the society, and to also as well, learn the relevance. Biology teachers, service biology teachers, why do you need to learn this? What relevance is a biology teacher to the society? Now we're going to start this course by looking at the principles and concepts of biology. Biology, as we all know, is the science of life. It studies living organisms, the structures, the functions, the environment, and everything about living organisms. Studies life and its processes, that is the processes about life, the processes that brings about life. It actually deals with all the physical chemical aspects of life, that is the physical aspect, the chemical aspect of life. That is what biology deals with, and it actually studies the unification of knowledge, that is how the knowledge of biology is related to other fields or other disciplines. Now, looking at the principles of biology, we're going to look at the basic principles of biology. And the basic principles of biology, when we talk about basic principles of biology or principles of biology, it actually means the knowledge of what's the fundamental principles on which the knowledge of biology is based on. And we're going to look at the basic ones, and these are the four basic principles that I have listed here for this lecture. The first one here that I have is a cell theory. Cell theory, the theory is saying that all living organisms are made up of cells. That is the life of a living organism. That is, if an organism is said to be alive, if something is said to be a living thing, it must have at least a cell. You could have some organisms having one cell, and we could have organisms having more than one cell. When an organism has one cell, it's referred to as unicellular. When an organism has more than one cell, it's referred to as a multicellular. So what this theory is saying is that every organism that is being referred to as organism, as a living thing, has at least, that is a minimum of a cell, which means that the activities that are being carried out, what we refer to as a characteristics of living things, are being actually carried out, performed in the cell, within the cell of an organism. So an organism cannot be referred to as being living if it does not possess a cell. Then the next theory we're looking at is a gene theory. Gene theory actually explains the characteristics and the behaviors of every organism. And it says that the characteristics and the behaviors of every organism are being controlled by a material that is referred to as gene. And this gene is being passed on, that is, this gene is being responsible for the passage of characteristics, behaviors from parent to offspring. The gene is located inside what we refer to as chromosomes, and these chromosomes are found in every cell, and they contain a particular, material that we normally refer to, that is referred to as a deoxyribonucleic acid. That is deoxyribonucleic acid molecules. That is what we popularly refer to as DNA. Oftentimes you have heard people saying that, oh, let's go and do DNA for paternal test. Let's go and do DNA. They should do DNA now. Yes, this is why they do the DNA, because the characteristics of every organism is being inherited from the parents, and the particular material in the cell that carries these characteristics or behaviors from the offspring is actually the gene. And this particular gene that, or the gene that carries this behavior, I said it resides in the chromosome. And so during the formative stage, that is when an organism is being formed in man now, when man is, at the developmental stage, fetus, you have materials being, passed from organism from the parent organism to the offspring. Now, the third one is what we refer to as homeostasis. Homeostasis is a condition in which a system is maintained, or a system maintains a steady state. That is, when you have a steady state being maintained, and in every organism inside, that is inside every organism internally, for continuous existence of every organism, there is, necessity for the maintenance of a stable environment, and this takes place in every living organism. So when there is any issue, then that means maybe in man now, then that means the person is sick or has an ailment. So the principle is saying that for every organism there is maintenance of a stable internal environment, or there must be a maintenance of continuous existence of life. There must be a stable state within, that is internally. And this, as we see, also applies to the biosphere, that is the part of the earth that is being covered by the living organism. There is what we call stability, that is a continuous existence of organisms in that particular, or in the biosphere. There is what we call stability, and for this stability to take place, you have certain processes taking place so that there will be stability, the environment will be stable. Now, the fourth principle is evolution theory. Evolution is actually when we have a change in the characteristics of population of organisms over a period of time. That is when the characteristics of particular population of organisms, when the characteristics change after or over a period of time, that is after the organisms have been exposed to certain conditions, then it is possible for a very long time. That long time, a period of time or long time, is very important. So you have a change taking place. This type of change is being referred to as a evolution, and it actually occurs as a result of natural selection. That is, naturally, after organisms in particular area are exposed to certain condition, you have what we call genetic mutation. That is, some organisms will now evolve, that is, evolve certain adaptive features. That is, they will be able to withstand the condition or the environmental situation, and with that you now have what we refer to as genetic mutation. That is, the genes will now be adapted, they will change to adapt to the condition or situation which they have been exposed to. But you have a situation where some organisms will not be able to survive it, and in such a situation, when the organisms cannot survive it, in such a situation, such organisms are eliminated. And so naturally, those that could withstand and could develop genetic mutation will be naturally selected, and that is why we refer to it as a natural selection. So these four principles guides the study of biology. The cell theory that says that every organism has at least a cell. The gene theory that says that the characters, features, characteristics are being passed to, or that are being passed to offspring from parents, are inherited. That is, they are present in the genes of organisms. That is, in the genes of organisms, that is how they are being, being passed from the parents to offspring during the developmental stage. Then we also have homeostasis, which is the maintenance of the maintenance of a steady state within an organism. Then we also have evolutionary theory, the evolutionary theory that says that after a population of organisms have been exposed to particular situation over a period of time, there will be natural selection due to genetic mutation of such population to the existing situation. Now, let's look at the concept of biology. The concept of biology, is about looking at those the contents. Let me put it that way. That is those things that are being learned in biology, those things that actually provides knowledge in biology. So it actually encompasses, that is, it composes of the structure, the function, the growth, the origin, the interaction of organisms with the environment. Biology studies from the smallest life, that is the smallest life, like for example a cell, to the largest one, which may be a complex organism or even an ecosystem where you have so many organisms. So when we are not talking about characteristics, or when we are talking about concepts of biology, we talk about the characteristics of life. Biology studies the characteristics of life, is about the characteristics of life. Then the structure. Biology, the concept of biology includes the structure, that is how life is structured, how life is organized from the smallest molecular level that is present within a cell to the most complex system or multicellular organisms. Then we also have physiological processes. Physiological processes are concepts that are involved about how organisms function. Then the next concept is growth and development. Growth is increase in size, while development is changes that occur. Now, let me give you an example. In man, for example, or mammals generally, when you have two different cells that they come together for sexual reproduction, they come together, they unite, form a zygote. After the zygote has been formed, the next thing that you see is that the zygote begins to divide. When the zygote divides, the zygote begins to divide into different cells. That is what we refer to as that process, we refer to it as meiosis. And now as we have different cells being formed at a particular time, you now have certain cells forming different parts of the body. So at that time, it is developing. It is no longer increase in size. Then another concept is origin and evolution. Origin and evolution is a concept that describes the diversity of life and adaptation for over a period of time. Diversity of life, that is talking about different lives, different existing organisms, and how organisms are able to change or adapt to a condition after or over a period of time. Then the next one is interaction. The next concept that talks about interaction is, it talks about, or what that concept is all about is interaction of organisms with each other. That is interaction of organisms with each other, and interaction of organisms with the environment. Now, another concept of biology that is being studied is cytology. Cytology is all about cell, the study of cell as the fundamental unit of life. Then we have genetics. Genetics is the study of inheritance, how characters, behaviors are being passed from individual parent organism to the offspring. Then we have a homeostasis. Homeostasis, as I've explained the other time, is a concept that we try to study stable internal environment of an organism. And we have what we call balanced environment. That is when we talk about the external environment, when we talk about the biosphere, those processes that happen within an ecosystem or within an environment that makes the environment to be balanced. Like for example, respiration and photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is a process that is being carried out by plants. It makes use of sunlight using carbon dioxide and water to produce glucose for feeding. But in the process, oxygen is given off. Now, respiration is a process whereby organisms breathe in oxygen and give off carbon dioxide. They breathe in oxygen for life processes and give off carbon dioxide. So when respiration takes place, for example, in man giving off carbon dioxide, plants will use the carbon dioxide for the purpose of photosynthesis, and they give off oxygen. That oxygen man make use of for the purpose of respiration. That is one of the importance of planting they have been advocating plant a tree. That's one of the importance, and that is one of the importance of having plants around us, because it makes the environment to be balanced. That's an example. We have so many examples. I've only given that one as an example so that it's going to be clearer to you. Now, the next concept that I have here is energy transformation. Energy transformation explains how organisms acquire energy and how they use the energy to sustain life processes. So we have different processes by which different organisms use or acquire energy, and they also use this energy to sustain their life for the existence, that is for life processes. You will see that we have different concepts under biology that actually studies or that show that biology is all about life, it's all about studying life and all those other things that associate with it for the purpose of existence of life. So this concept has led to different disciplines in biology, such disciplines like anatomy, which is about studying of the internal organs, physiology, which is about studying how the body functions, ecology, which is about the study of the environment, genetics, which is on studying about how organisms inherit character, the study of inheritance. We have microbiology, study of microorganisms, neurobiology, which studies anything that has got to do with the brain. Let me put it like that. We have evolutionary biology, as I've mentioned the other time. We have zoology, which is related to the study of animals, everything about animals. Then botany, which studies plants, everything about plants. So biology actually seeks to understand the mechanisms and the processes of existence and diversities of life. We have so many different disciplines under biology. I've only given that as those that I've given just a few examples, but the main thing that needs to understand is that we have principles on which biology is being, the principles on which the concepts of biology are existing. Then when you talk about concepts of biology, we're talking about the different aspects in which biology is being studied. I think this is clear enough for every one of us. Thank you.